Hello everyone, this is Gene and I'm back with a new video. I hope you're all doing well. So this video is going to be, how do I put it? I'll say it's inspired by some of the criticism that I received from my Catchadora video a few days ago. Inspired by some of the responses. Now, I want to be clear because I know some people can be like, yeah, you're stirring the hornet's nest. No, I'm not. I'm not addressing the pairing of Catcher and Adora any longer. I've said my piece. I've said my piece more than enough in the comments, and I've addressed the most egregious of criticisms that I felt were disingenuous and trying to make me look bad in the follow-up video. So this is not a response per se. This is more of a thought piece, right? Taking some of the other responses and just trying to see where that type of reasoning comes from. So please understand, I'm not trying to stick it to the haters or anything of that sort. I just found some of the other comments that were not, I feel, disingenuous attacks interesting. And that's why I didn't address them in the criticisms video, because I wanted to do something different. So there's that. Now, in in some of the criticisms that I received for the Catchadora video, some people were saying, and you can look in the comments for yourself on that video. I'll link to it in the description. But some of the responses that I received were, in my opinion, trying to sort of, I guess, excuse the issues that the show has, both in general and with the pairing itself, by saying, "Oh, it's just for kids. It's just for kids, or it's a kids show, right? They're like 7 years old. They're not gonna get it." And those type of responses. And I just wanted to respond to that. Now, in my opinion, that is an incredibly weak argument, right? Argument saying that the show's just for kids, or a popular alternate one is the show was just made to sell toys. That was a defense that was brought up as regards criticism for the original He-Man and ThunderCats and She-Ra. They were just made to sell a toy line. Well, here's the way I see it. I find both to be very bad arguments because, in my opinion, when someone says, "Oh, it's just made for kids," or "Oh, it's just made to sell toys," they're saying that, at least for them, they can give the actual work produced, right, a pass, right? It's not all that great, right? But it was just made to just sell toys, or just made for a bunch of 5-year-olds. Who cares? Well, I care. And as much as I try to be, what I should say is that as much as I try to not be, think of the children, I do think, in this case, you should think of the children. Because children will be watching these shows and they will be picking up something from them. Look, we all imprint on something to a degree, especially when we are kids. And I'm not trying to be a moralist here, right? I'm just saying, just because your audience is very young, or the principal goal of the work is to sell an item, right? You still need to produce good work, right? Because especially with these cartoons and TV shows, people grow up with them. Think about the TV shows that you watched as a kid. You grew up with them, most likely. And they made an impact on you, and you probably still remember them fondly, or maybe not so fondly. Now, am I saying that a kid's show needs to be grimdark and be as dark as, say, Game of Thrones? Even if it's dealing with similar topics such as war and relationships and love and hate and revenge and all that stuff? No, of course not. It wouldn't be age appropriate. But it should be good. It should approach those issues with respect. It should tell a story. Regardless of who your audience is or what your intent is, you should be ideally producing a good work. And that's where I think that a lot of modern day cartoons, be it ThunderCats Roar or She-Ra or Teen Titans Go or that Ninja Turtles reboot. Oh my God, the art! I can't look at Raphael. He's my favorite turtle. I can't look at him in this one. But I think a lot of these shows have forgotten that they're supposed to, or rather, maybe the people behind them have forgotten that just because their audience is young doesn't mean that you produce low tier crap for them. Now, does that mean that you can't produce something lighthearted and funny? No, of course not. You can do lighthearted and funny. You can make a lighthearted and funny series, but you got to do it well. Let me give an example, right? There are plenty of series that were made for kids that are well regarded and respected. There's He-Man, there's the original She-Ra, there's ThunderCats, there's Gargoyles, there's X-Men, the animated series, there's Spider-Man, the animated series, there's Superman, the animated series. Basically anything that ended in the term the animated series back in the 90s. You had the Justice League cartoons. And you had stuff like Dexter's Laboratory and the Powerpuff Girls and Samurai Jack and Avatar, The Last Airbender, and many others that came out in that period of either the 90s or the early to mid 2000s. Those were all made for a predominantly, I would say, an all ages audience, but the majority of people watching those shows, I mean, come on, Avatar aired on Nickelodeon. Not too many adults and not too many teenagers are watching Nickelodeon. The majority of these shows were made with a younger, child audience in mind. But that doesn't mean that you can't tell a good story and have interesting characters and have these heavy themes of redemption and love and loss and all these things. Because what's going to happen is that when these kids eventually grow up, and they do, they're going to revisit these works, just like people my age now and people younger than me now who grew up on this stuff come and revisit it as an adult. And we take it in differently, and we understand the deeper concepts that kind of flew over our head when we were younger. Another example is, of course, Disney, especially, at least for me, back in the 1990s, right? You had their 90s Renaissance, right? Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin. I mean, this was the same Disney that adapted The Hunchback of Notre Dame. That's a pretty heavy film. And it's a pretty heavy book to make an adaptation of, right? And that featured, of course, religion, right? And the idea of the true believer, right? And then, of course, dealing with lust, right? In particular with Frollo and the song Hellfire. Hell, just that, right? A Disney song that for a kid is like, he said the word hell. He's saying it multiple times. Right? But I disagree with this idea that kids can't handle heavier themes. They may not completely understand it. I'll give you that. I did not completely understand what I was watching when I was a child. But that doesn't mean I didn't understand it enough. I understood that two characters didn't like each other or did like each other. I understood as a child, you did something wrong and now you have to apologize for it. You need to make up for it. We understand that, right? If you're dealing with a reasonably, well-adjusted, intelligent child, they'll understand that. They'll understand the basics of it. And then when they're older, they'll come back and they'll see the deeper concepts that they perhaps didn't see or maybe did notice but just couldn't bring voice to, just couldn't identify when they were younger. And this isn't just regarding cartoons. This is also regarding things like video games, right? Just because you're making a video game for a predominantly young audience, right, doesn't mean it should be bad, right? Imagine if games such as Fortnite or Smash Brothers or Overwatch, or if you want to take it back to to my day, games like Sonic the Hedgehog, in particular Sonic the Hedgehog 2, or Super Mario Brothers, which is an iconic title in gaming in general, or Street Fighter 2. If the people behind these games said, look, our audience is like a bunch of 7-year-olds. Who cares if we have good music or interesting character designs or good intuitive controls or good level design? Who cares if we have any of that? It's just for kids. They're not going to care. Yeah, they do, because all of those things put together, right? The music, the art, the color palette used, the voices, right? Everything, right? All these individual parts have to come together to create a good product that produces and provides an enjoyable experience so that people will come back, right? And do it again and again and again, right? Especially back in the days of, arcades and coin ops and whatnot. You needed people to come back multiple times and spend their quarters playing this game. You had to create something that people damn near got addicted to. So, given all that, right? Given all this, I don't really think it's a strong argument to say, right, oh, it's just for kids, and as a way to dismiss, the issues found in any work. This can apply to anything, right? It doesn't have to just apply to a cartoon or two characters being shipped together or anything like that. This can be applied to anything that you would want to share or give to a child, right? You wouldn't give a child, at least if you're a decent parent, you wouldn't give a child, undercooked food, right? Just because, they're a kid. Who cares if it's undercooked? You wouldn't say that. You would make sure that you provided something good and filling and tasty for the kid. So they'll eat it, right? And they'll get the nutrients from it. It's not too dissimilar with entertainment for kids or for any audience. If you want people to consume your entertainment, you have to provide good entertainment, regardless of the audience and their age, regardless of the intent. Because guess what? The best way to try to sell toys is to make something, is to make a work people want to be interested in, and then they'll want the merch associated with it. I'm not going to say it's easy to do these things. It's not. But at the same time, it's like, it's not that complicated, right? It's not that complicated a concept. Make something good, people will want it. Continue to make good things and people will want them. Franchises like Star Wars lasted for years. Remember, the original series of films ended in the mid-80s? You didn't get films again, right, until the late 90s with the start of the prequel films. So you have this huge gap of time of over a decade, and yet Star Wars was still popular. Why? Because for many people it was a good series of films, and then you had the expanded universe, and people were invested, and people wanted more, and people kept it alive during that huge drought. And that's a series that for some say that it's just for kids. I disagree with that. I think it's all ages, and depending on which part of the Star Wars franchise you are invested in. For example, I like Clone Wars because of Ahsoka Tano, and other people, but I'm not going to act as if Ahsoka isn't the main reason she is. Right? But Clone Wars, especially after season 3, gets very dark, gets heavy, right? It's definitely, I would say not for little kids. I'm not sure little kids need to see a graveyard and a crashed ship, but who knows? Who knows? I mean, I say that, and yet one of my favorite cartoons, Gargoyles, had the lead female get shot and nearly die 8 episodes in. So, who knows? Who knows? But all I'm trying to say is that if you're going to debate someone, whether it's me or someone else, right, and you're trying to defend the work, right, please don't use "it's just for kids" as a defense, because "just for kids" simply means that's their target audience. That is not addressing the quality of the work. But anyway, that's all I have to say on the topic. Please let me know what you think, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.